good afternoon, good evening, my dear friends, from wherever you are logging in. So, accordingly, I said good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Meenakshi Sundaram. I am a chartered accountant and a management accountant, presently working as head of finance, HR, and IT with Business International Group in Bahrain. I am also John Maxwell team certified trainer, speaker, and coach. I am also a Toastmaster. I am also a Toastmaster for the last 13 years, won several awards. The high point of my Toastmastering career is when I got placed second in the District 20 Annual Toastmasters Conference in 2019 in the International Speech category. In John Maxwell team, I was privileged to have spoken in front of 2,500 to 3,000 John Maxwell trainers in Orlando, Florida in February 2018. Today, I will be sharing based on Dr. John Maxwell's book, Art of Connecting. The book title is Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. The speech title is Art of Connecting. Now, John Maxwell is a well-known author, leadership guru. You can go to the internet and type out John Maxwell. You will find so many books. He has written more than 100 books on leadership. So I'm one of the certified members of John Maxwell team who's been given the access to his material which I can use for teaching. So today I'm going to share based on his books, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect, some aspects that we can learn in the art of connecting. Let me set the perspective here first. Communication, that's something that we all engage day in and day out. There are about 500 million tweets that happen each day. Maybe it's more now. Based on a 2015 data, in the US alone, 11 million meetings happen each day. Now, today, because of the pandemic, probably the number would have far surpassed. Maybe we're having billions of meetings. An average human speaks, it seems, roughly about 16,000 to 30,000 words in a week. Even if we take 16,000 words on a lower estimate, that amounts to number of words you will find in a 100-page book. So the question that we need to look into is, with so much communication happening, how many of this communication actually results in connection? Because we all are interested in establishing connection. Network, we are working in social media, we are all engaged in social media so that we can have a lot of connections. But personal connection is a bit more than that. Now, why connection is important? John Maxwell says connection increases your influence in every situation. This particular view is also supported. I was doing a bit of research to see is there any other material I can get to support this view. There is an article I found in HBR, Harvard Business Review, February 2018, an article by Rebecca Knight, and she says that if you want to increase your influence with your co-workers, then you need to build connection. There's another gentleman by name Dr. J. Hall. You can go to a website, teamlmi.com. He is actually an organizational psychologist who works with companies, in corporations, in building leadership, working on high performance. They did a research of 16,000 executives. And what they found is all those high performance managers who are performing, whose performance is very high, they actually create an environment that facilitates connection and collaboration. So connection actually helps us in multiple ways in increasing the success rate in our life, in whatever we do. Not just marketing, not just sales, in any line in your life, establishing a strong connection with people is going to help you to go a long way in your life. Even there was a research done on the past US presidents. This research was done quite some time back. So obviously, the recent past president of US, Donald Trump, was not included in that. And they found 5 common traits, qualities across all these US presidents. And that traits are vision, consensus building, pragmatism, charisma, and trustworthiness. See, if you look at these 5 qualities, except for the first one, vision, which is internal, see the other 4 qualities. You talk about pragmatism or consensus building or charisma or trustworthiness. You need to have connection with others. So all the other 4 qualities have got something to do with your connection with people involved. So connection becomes a critical element in our life if you're aiming for success. So in this talk, I'm going to cover few principles. I'll say 3 principles because John Maxwell in the books, he covers 5 principles and 5 practices. Because of paucity of time, I would restrict to 3 principles and try and touch upon some practices that we can have in our life for facilitating a good connection. The first principle John talks about is connection goes beyond words. Connection, of course, communication is critical element. Communication is what is going to help you in connecting. But connection is much more than words. See, if you see components of communication, communication is basically containing 3 parts. It starts with the thoughts. What is in our mind, ideas, logic, which we want to convey to people. So the thought is one component. The second component is emotions. What we feel about that, our feeling, that also we're trying to convey in our communication. So the second component is emotion. The third component is action, what we do. So all these 3 put together is what communication is made of. And when these 3 are synchronized, coherent, we will be able to establish a good connection. I'm not talking about public speaking where you connect with the audience. I'm talking about even your daily life where you are communicating with your co-workers, with your team members, management, or customers, vendors. Every conversation, when all 3 are together, the connection is going to be smooth. Let me narrate a story which I heard from one of the speakers in my local language. I speak Tamil. It's a language spoken in south of India, in Tamil Nadu. And this incident happened in my hometown, Madurai. So Madurai is famous for Madurai Meenakshi temple, a huge temple. And this story happened sometime in 1980s when President of India was Mr. Zail Singh. The Zail Singh was planning a visit to Madurai and he wanted to see Meenakshi temple. Trustee of Meenakshi temple at the time was one Mr. V.N. Chidambaram. Now, collector who is coordinating found a small problem in this. The problem is, Zail Singh is fluent in Hindi, but not that fluent in English. Whereas Mr. Chidambaram is fluent in Tamil, and his English is not very good. So, collector found out a solution. He went to Mr. Chidambaram and said, I will be there. I will act as a translator between you 2 people. It was all agreed. President came. As a collector, he had other protocols to complete. By the time he finished the protocol and he came to the scene, these two gentlemen were already on their way. They were talking to each other, they were laughing, they were enjoying the talk. Collector was puzzled, but he stood back. The visit got over, and then collector went to Mr. V.N. Chidambaram and asked, how did that happen? Because you are not, your English is not good, I know. And then the Chidambaram said, yeah, you're right. See, he spoke with whatever he know. I spoke with whatever I know. But both of us spoke from our heart. And that actually helped us in connecting with each other. Now, when your words, your action, and your emotions are synchronized, the connection is certain. Now, from this story, I want to connect with another research done by Dr. Mehrabian. If you are into public speaking, you would have heard this particular research, which says that in any communication, 7% is actually words, 38% is the way you say it, and 55% is your action, what you do. Or in a public speaking scenario, people say, no, it's about vocal variety and body language. Yeah, that's a small portion of it. But in a normal situation, it's when you are genuine in your communication, when you are authentic in your communication. Words just play 7%. Words are important. Words definitely have power. But the power of these words comes from the emotion and the action we do. Now, communication in our life is not one time. It's consecutive. So you have to be consistent with your action as to what you say. This is a point generally as a parent. I know most of you are parents, most of you who have dealt with kids, you will know that I have failed many times. I will tell my son that you should not do this, and he will listen to me. But after probably a day or two, he would be observing me doing same thing that I told him he should not do. So the action, which is a 55%, is actually completely opposite to what I want to convey to him. So connection happens when your action, your emotions, and your thoughts are consistent throughout. So if you're dealing with the customer throughout the deal, throughout the life cycle of your product, when you are consistent with your actions, with your emotions, and with your thoughts with the customer is going to stay with you. Just an example. John Maxwell says there are 4 components that we should keep in mind, 4 aspects. When people see the communication, the connection happens at 4 different levels. The first level is what people see. Now, that's our action. That's what I talked about a bit earlier. The actions that we do. That is one aspect. Second aspect is what people understand. Now, this is connecting intellectually. When we are using a very simple language, when we are able to put our thoughts in a more organized manner, in a coherent manner, they are going to connect with us. The intellectual connection happens when your thoughts are logical, simple, and easy to follow. Third connection happens is emotionally, what people feel. And this, if you look at all the politicians, they are able to connect emotionally with their audience. So in each communication, there is an emotional connection. So how we are able to get that? The last one is connecting verbally. Know what people hear. When I say this, the challenge in this is because many of us, for example, I'm not a native English speaker, so I may have a different accent, different diction. So the words I say may sound differently to different people. I'll give you an example. This happened quite some time back when I was in the early part of my career. I had a boss who had a problem in pronouncing word B and P. Both sounds same when he say. So those days there used to be secretary. So the computers were not given to everyone. So For any communication, he will call a secretary, he will give the notes. The secretary has to go and type out the notes. And secretary typed out whatever he is told. Secretary came back, and this person took the notes and said, "This is not B, this is B." Secretary was confused. Then he realized this person has a problem in pronouncing the word P. When he pronounces it, it sounds like B. So I'm just giving the example because verbally, what we are communicating, what people are hearing can be different. So the connection sometimes can go wrong in that. What people see, I want to touch upon this a bit more because many times in our life, what we do is that we only see what people are doing and then we judge people by their actions. How many times you see someone doing something and immediately your mind races and say, "Oh, this person is doing this because of this reason. Oh, he is like this, or she is like this. Oh, she is always like that." And that's what we think in our mind. We only see their action and then judge. Whereas, if someone else is judging us for our action, we get upset. How can you judge just based on one action? What is actually missing here is intention. See, when someone judges us based on our action, we have access to our intention, whereas they don't have access to our intention. So we fight because my intention is not that. This action is purely with good intention. Whereas someone else is doing that, we don't even bother to check what is their intention. So this is a major impediment that happens, which is going to come as a barrier in establishing connection. There is a research done by Dr. Emily Ponin, and she has done this, and she found out, and she says that we are overconfident in our ability to judge someone in a very brief encounter, like for example interviews. Whereas when someone else does that, we say it's just a glimpse of me is not sufficient for you to decide who I am. So this is how we think. Why I touched upon this particular subject, what do people see, is because that's a good portion of every communication. 55% of what people understand is based on our action, what we do. So keep this in mind before we judge someone else. So the connection will get cut if we don't understand this particular concept. We have to keep this in mind. So this is one point I want to touch upon. So the first principle that I touched upon is communication is not about words. It's more than words actually. Communication is more than words. The second principle I want to touch upon today is communication is about others, not about us. This is a very, we all know about it, but still in every situation we look at what is happening from our perspective, not from that person's perspective. We are always focused on our interest, not other person's interest. We are always focused on us than them. When I say always, I am not saying that everyone, everywhere, but majority of the times. Obviously, there are people who are more emotionally controlled, more emotionally mature, who are able to see through, but most of others, normal mortals, we miss this point. I want to give an example of there is a thing that happened when I went for in February 2018, when I was in the International Maxwell Certification event in Orlando. John was speaking on stage. John was talking about what all the techniques he uses when he speaks on stage. In one thing that he normally does is that he used to keep a cue card, and once in a while he will pick up the cue card and maybe it will have a story or a joke or something. So he picked up a cue card that day to narrate how he does it, and there was a joke. When he started narrating the joke, he said, God first made a dog and told the dog that your job is to stand near the door and bark at people. You will live for 20 years. The dog was like, only This much and 20 years? No, no, that's boring. Give me 10 years only. 10 years you take it off. Well, that's it. God said, okay, fine. So 10 years for you. Then he made a monkey and said, your job is to go jump around and entertain humans. And this you will do for 20 years. Monkey was upset. Again 20 years? Same thing? No, not possible. 10 years. God said, fine, 10 years. So monkey and dog gave back 10 years each. Then he made a cow and said, your job is to go and give milk and milk products to the human and nourish them. Cow felt, that's a good one, noble one, but 40 years is too much. Give me just 20 years. God said, fine, take 20 years. And 20 years was removed. Then God made human. And he said, your job is to go and enjoy life. You will live for 25 years. Human was upset. 25 years only? What about the 10 years of the dog, 10 years of monkey and 20 years of cow? Give it all to me. God was happy. He said, okay, take it. And that's how for 25 years a human enjoys his or her life. And the next 20 years work like a cow in making a family, producing for a family and nourishing the family. The next 10 years like a monkey jumping around and keeping the grandchildren entertained. And the last 10 years sitting near the door barking at everyone who's coming in that place. Now this joke was something that I have heard earlier. Many people have heard earlier. But John was so involved. He was completely into the joke and he was doing body language, action, behaving like a kid. And we enjoyed everything. And as he finished the joke, he threw that card and then asked one question. Tell me, how many times I would have told the same joke on stage? We all made some calculation. John has been speaking from the age of 20, 21, 22. He's 70 now. So many years he has spoken. Maybe he would have told 2,000 times, 3,000 times. Everyone gave their estimate. And John finally said, it really doesn't matter. I would have spoken probably 5,000 times. But what matters is that each time I tell this joke, I make it a point to feel like I am telling this joke for the first time. I prepare so well for this joke. I enjoy telling this joke because this is not about me. This is about you all. If I don't enjoy this, you're not going to enjoy this. So I have to do this for you. Now that stuck in my mind. I realized, that's exactly how you connect with people. As a public speaker on stage for connecting with so many people, that's one aspect. By take that lesson and apply in our life. When we shift our focus on each of our activity and say it's not about me, it's about them, it's about them, and change it and see the kind of connection that you're going to get in your life. I can talk about our friend Kishore, who has created this particular group and is allowing us all to use it for our own benefit. No doubt, he is getting so many connections because he make sure that this is not about him, it is about us, the members of this group. Now, that is the critical part. That's exactly what John says when he says the connection is not about us, it's about them. Now, he says why people fail to take this particular lesson. One, ego. What comes as a barrier between us and the third person in connecting? Why we are not able to shift our focus towards them? Ego. Every time we feel that we are either losing something or we are not being respected, ego comes in between and then snap, the connection is lost. Sometimes it is insecurity. In the office environment, you would have seen people not giving the information, holding on. Why? Because they feel there is a chance that the other person may get the benefit, I may lose it. There is a fear of losing something, insecurity. And this also happens. This also, again, doesn't help you in getting the connection that you want in your life. Third is immaturity. When I talk about maturity, it doesn't come because of age, they say. Maturity comes because of your experience, not just experience, because of the experience from which you decide to learn something. Because we have got so many experience in our life. Each day are we learning something from each experience? Not necessarily. Only when we decide to learn something from our experience, we get the maturity in that particular field, in that particular area. Else, we remain immature to that extent. So, we are all that way immature in some way or other. Age is not really going to help us to become mature. So, every experience where we learn something, we are getting mature. So, immaturity is something that will come in between and snap. The connection will get lost. There's a famous TED talk in YouTube. You can go and find out by Amy Cuddy. She speaks about power poses, how it helps you in establishing or gaining confidence about yourself. Now she talks about something which, in fact, if you go to any psychologist, they all say this. There are three questions that, as humans, we always ask. Every encounter, three questions get asked by our brain. We don't ask it explicitly, but it's a question that gets asked and gets answered. The questions are, do you care for me? Or this person, will he care for me? Is he having my interest in his mind or her mind? That's one question that pops up. The second question is, can you help me? Can you help me is a question that's, if you look at, actually, people don't ask. But if you can understand and help without them asking you, you will always be there in their best of interest, and they will have you in their connection. I can give you one example. My first boss, when I was pretty early in my career, and I had my communication was not great because I came from a very kind of a semi-urban city, and the language was not great. The diction was very bad. But he sent me for a personality development workshop. In that workshop, what I realized in the company, where every department head or the next person was sent for this particular workshop, only in my department, I was the junior most. I just joined as a management trainee, and I was sent for this workshop by my boss. Now, he understood that I need a help, and he put that help directly to me. So he's always there in my mind. I'm never going to forget that help that he gave to me, isn't it? So when you help someone without them asking you, the connection is going to be strong and remain for life. The last question is, can I trust you? And trust, again, is established not in one day, but a series of actions which substantiate what we say and what we believe every time. That's when the connection is again going to be established. So these three questions comes. The third principle which I want to touch upon is connection is a skill. Now, why I decided to take this particular principle is because art of connecting can be practiced. It can be learned. It's not something that you have to be born with. You can practice it continuously. All the marketing gurus here, they will know how much they have practiced this art of connecting with people. So connection is a skill that you can learn and you can practice. And John gives you 5 different ways in which people connect, different levels, which you can use for practicing at these different areas. 1, people connect with you based on how do you live, meaning the kind of sacrifice that you do for people. When someone is able to give their time and their effort for something without expecting anything, people want to be with that person. Second, what you know, your knowledge. If you are an expert in a field, obviously people want to be in your connection to learn from you, to know some kind of tips on that particular field. So that's another way where people connect with you. The third is what you have done. You have been successful in a particular field, people are going to connect with you so that they can learn from you again. So success attracts more connections. But this connection is going to be lifelong or not, that depends on again what actions you do subsequently. These are all not one time event. If you get a connection and you want to keep the connection, again it's a continuous process. What you do, what you can do, your ability, that is also going to attract people towards you. Your ability of speaking positively, or ability in keeping people happy, ability in helping, there are so many things that you can do. The last one is, whom do you know? Your relationship with whom you are keeping relationship, that also matters. Especially if you look at today's situations, where COVID situation, where back in India, where the situation is pretty bad, people are connected to so many people and trying to get help. So the connection actually is really helping today. So whom you know matters a lot, and especially when you combine that with how you can help someone. So the connection for a lifelong, you can practice in all these areas to establish connection and practice the art of connecting actually. When at the end of the day, every act we do has got some selfishness. I'm not saying you should be completely unselfish. The selfishness is basically in getting the effort. When you are in need, they are going to come and help you. So you're not expecting anything now. But obviously the network, the connections that you have got established for what you have done to them, they will get back to you when you need them, when you are in a dash street or whatever it is. I have given you 3 principles. Now let's go on some practices that we can do which will help us in establishing connection. First practice, or rather I'm going to only cover this particular practice. It's called finding common ground. It's something that you would have heard in many places. I'll give you one situation. You got a job and you're going to a new place. What you're going to do first? You will look around to see, are there people who come from your background, or maybe people who speak your language, or is there association for your profession? Maybe you are an engineer. You look for people from engineering, whether they have got any association where you can go and join so that you can establish connection. Or maybe you look for hobbies. You are a football player. You are a tennis player. You look around and find, is there any association for or a club where you can join and play? Why? Because you are finding a common ground for you to connect with that place first. And once you find something where you connect, and then you find people with whom you can connect, and you are going to expand your connection. So common ground is actually the place from where you can start. All the marketing guys, you know very well about finding common ground to establish a connection with the customer. If you are in negotiation, you know how important it is to find a common ground from where you can actually start moving towards whichever side you want to ultimately benefit. But what comes as a barrier for finding common ground? One, John gives us example, is preconceived notions. See, every time we see someone doing something, immediately our mind prepares ourselves, because we have a chart made in our mind with our experience in the past. If this person is acting like this person should be like this. We have a chart in our mind and we try to put people in that boxes. And that's not really going to help. Preconceived notion comes as a barrier in finding common ground. I have a personal experience in this. When I joined this company, there was a person who left us actually now, but that person was heading a department, and I heard that this person has not been easy to work with, very difficult, and person who never give up his viewpoint and all those stories. So I was having this preconceived notion, and I was having very less interaction with that person until there was a problem which was hurting a company. For him also, he's also getting a hurt, but we have to find a solution. The only way I can get a solution is by talking to him. So it took me a lot of time and courage. I told myself that I have to be open-minded and I want to listen to him, and arranged for a meeting, and I completely listened to whatever he said. At the end of the meeting, we became very good friends. We were able to find a solution because he felt that I have given the importance to him that he deserves. And when I listened to him, I was able to see a common ground where I can start the conversation. The second aspect that comes as a barrier is assumptions. We assume about so many things. We don't ask questions. We assume if someone says this is what this person is meaning. He or she means this. It's in our mind. We don't worry to cross check. We just assume. The third is lack of perspective. We don't try to see from others' perspective. These are three barriers. So what really can help us, what can facilitate us in finding the common ground? As from my experience, I can tell you, listening really helps. Listening helps you in getting the connection, because listening shifts the focus from you to them, because connection is about others, not you. So that happens when you listen. Second is asking questions. I had a boss who always asks questions. He calls for a meeting. At the end of the meeting, he will ask question as to what we understood, and we have to explain to him what we understood. And once our understanding is matching what he exactly is requiring us to do, he will allow us to leave the room. When he goes for a meeting with his boss, he still asks question to clarify what his understanding. Is it correct? Are we all on the same page? So questions are very, very critical, because that removes all the assumptions. Because assumptions is another barrier that's going to completely ruin our relationship. So questions will help us in getting the assumptions cleared. Availability. When you are available, when someone is looking for something, that is going to help the person to walk towards a common goal, or finding the common ground. The person will walk towards it. I remember a salesperson who is no more now, unfortunately. Almost after 1 year he passed away. I met one of the customers, and the customer was praising about this salesperson. I asked him, what is that you have seen unique in him? And he said, see, this person was available. Whenever I call him, he will answer the phone. Even if he is not dealing with a particular product, a solution which I am looking for, he will help me in getting that solution. So whenever I want something, first preference I will give it to him. If he is not selling, then only I will go for others. So availability is something that's going to help us create a strong bond. When we are available for people, they are going to be available for us when we are in need. The last one I want to touch upon here is humility. Now, humility is not something that you have achieved greatness but you are being modest in your life. That's one portion of the humility. The major portion of humility is when you don't know something, you are willing to accept that you don't know. Even if the person who is teaching you is very less in age or in terms of position, even then when you are willing to learn, humble enough to accept that you don't know but willing to learn, you are displaying humility, and people will like you for it. Because at the end of the day, connection is about how people like you. I want to give a quote, but before that quote, I want to add one more point here, which is basically John Maxwell's philosophy. John Maxwell's philosophy is, we are people of value, adding value to people. This is the philosophy he tells us to follow. Now, if you want to add value to people, first and foremost is you should value them first for what they are or who they are. Once you value them, they are going to value you and open their mind and accept whatever value you are going to add to them. So, value people as they are. And once you do that, they are going to like you. Likability factor plays a major role, because when you like someone, whatever their actions are, you are not going to doubt their intentions. So likability is a critical factor in getting the connection set. When I think there's a book by Robert Cialdini titled Influence. In that book, he talks about one particular place where he mentions it's a quote by someone, I forgot the name of the person. It basically says the role of a lawyer is to make the jury like his client. Because the moment you start liking him, you're going to pardon them for smaller sins. So you're not going to put your intentions, different intentions. you're going to like the person for their actions. I want to conclude this talk with a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. That's what the Google says. The Google attributes this quote to Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt says, people don't care how much you know unless you care, unless they know how much you care. Sorry. People don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. So when you care for people, they are going to respect you, they are going to like you, the connection is going to be established. So be likable, help people, be careful. These are the few points which I want to give, which will help you in establishing, removing the barrier of common ground, establishing common ground, and creating wonderful connection. That's my talk for the day. If there are any questions, let me see. Maybe no questions. Hopefully, I have added some value to you. I want to again thank Mr. Kishore for this wonderful platform that he has created, a wonderful group where people are sharing their knowledge and we are all gaining so much. I'm grateful to him. I want to conclude my speech. Thank you all. You have been a great audience. I hope I added some value to you. I'm not sure whether I should say good night, good day. So wherever you are in, good day if your day is still remaining. Good night if you're going to sleep. Thank you.